First of all, appreciate everybody coming out. And the answer to the question that probably everybody wants to ask is it does feel a lot different in year two than it did in year one. It's a totally different feel in a lot of ways, and I'll touch on some of those. You know, we're still a very young football team in most ways, but as I said in the Missouri Valley press conference, we're a younger football team that has a lot more experience than we had a year ago. And the best scenario that I can give you on that is if you take a look at our offensive skill players, our top 3 receivers, our top 3 running backs, and our starting quarterback all return, but all of them were first-year players in our program last year, with the exception of one, and that's Nico Watson. So it shows you a little bit about the youth and experience that we're still working with in our program. You know, there's 2 things that also have made it a lot different, and one is the fact that we've had a full year and a half to work with these guys. Over 65% of our roster are guys that we have brought in the last year and a half. Our staff has brought in the last year and a half. So another indication of you know, the direction our program is headed, and also the kind of blend of experienced and inexperienced. The NCAA rule changes, which allowed you more summer access, was huge for us as a football team that's trying to improve. We had 85 guys that were here, right around 85 guys that were here basically the entire summer, working together, training together. And the summer is the one time that you have as a college football team where you can make up ground and you can pass some teams by, and I certainly think that we, as a football team this summer, move forward in a lot of ways, and hopefully that will show in our performance come this fall. We've got more depth, we've got more experience. We were in spring practice a year ago with 58, 59 guys. This past year we were in spring practice with about 80. We've got 95, which is the maximum number we can have for preseason camp. And the sad thing, one of the hardest decisions that you have to make as a head coach is you got to tell some guys that they can't come till school starts, because we had that many guys that had invested over the summer that really deserved the opportunity to be practicing right now. But NCAA rule doesn't allow it. So the 95 guys that we've got have gotten off to a great start in camp. You know, we're already probably a week and a half ahead of where we were last year at this time in terms of our install and doing things on the field now in our 3rd, 4th day of practice that we weren't doing a year ago until probably the 2nd week, and that's where we should be with the amount of time that we've got invested in it. You know, talk just a little bit about our football team, and then I'd like to talk just a little bit about our schedule. I know you'll all have some questions on that, and then we'll open it up for questions. Our team certainly does have some strengths and has some areas where we've got to continue to improve. You know, the biggest area of strength and the amount of experience that we have is still going to be on the defensive side of the football. In the secondary, you could see 4 seniors starting. Martinez Davis, a cornerback who's been recognized multiple times in the all-conference league teams. Along with him, David McDaniel, who's had a number of starts. Jonathan Rollins, also a guy that started a lot of games, and the other senior would be Dallas Nichols, who played a lot last year, one of our top tacklers. Those 4 are going to be 4 guys that you're going to see a lot in the secondary. We've got 2 other seniors in Richard Chungong and Marquette Privet that both you know, give us a lot of experience and depth at that position group, and really high on some of our younger safeties there. So we've got a deep group in the secondary to add to a very experienced linebacker group that includes Kevin Kinsel, who's been listed on several of the preseason All-American lists after the year that he had last year, and J.J. Raffleson, who's healthier than he was last year when he tried to come back and ended up missing the majority of the season. A guy that was recognized as one of the top freshmen in the league 2 years ago, and having him back into the fold makes us a better defense. Add to him Luke Venegoni, another senior, who's a returning starter, gives us a very experienced core there. We've got more depth behind them this year, including local Macomb product Brett Taylor, who was redshirted last year. Brett's really stepped forward, be in a position where he can play a lot for us this year, and another guy, Demetrius Allen, who was redshirted last year, having transferred from Idaho State, is another guy that you're going to see on the field a lot at that position group, and we're working there to develop, a couple other guys that I think can be substantial players. Up front defensively, again, we've got some seniors, particularly at the defensive end position. Gino Durley, Jeremy Curry, Chip Holslag, who is practicing, coming off the injury that he had late in the season last year, and getting back to full speed, and his twin brother Eddie, who's actually not a senior. Don't explain how that happened. Twins, but they're in different grades. Eddie, who has played very, very well. Those four guys give us great leadership at the defensive end position, great experience. We're a little younger inside, where we lost a couple of senior starters at the defensive tackle position, but we've really got some depth there that we feel good about. The addition of a transfer, Chris Harley, who's originally from Indianapolis, came to us via Virginia Tech. He's capable of being a high caliber player in our league, and some young, along with Gavin Ricketts, who played a lot last year, and then we add to them some younger guys, Mick Nelson and J.J. Velos, who we redshirted last year, and then that group also gets bolstered by the return of John Mark Charles, who was injured last year and missed the vast majority of the season. So again, defensively, I think the one thing that we feel really good about is the fact that we've got depth, and I think you're going to be able to see us play multiple people at every position. And that was something that was a problem for us last year. We had games where we had maybe 11, 12, 13 guys that played significantly. Besides the top 11, we had 12, 13, maybe 14 guys that played. And in this level of college football, you got to have depth on defense. Otherwise, what happens is some of the things that we saw at the end of games in the fourth quarter last year, where we gave up some touchdowns late, that even though we were playing very competitively, cost us. On the offensive side, you talked about our offensive skill players, and we've got some guys that put good numbers up last year. They're going to be a year better. We feel like we've got even better depth at the wide receiver position and running back position than we had last year. As we head into camp, the two quarterbacks that we redshirted last year, we felt good enough about that allowed us to take a guy like Javon Williams and move him to wide receiver, who was playing quarterback last year in the offseason. So we've got Devin O'Hara and Reese Jervis that are coming off of redshirt seasons at the quarterback position. And then another quarterback that I'll just mention quick is Sean McGuire, who most people rated as the top quarterback in the state of Wisconsin last year. That's part of our recruiting class, which gives us four guys that we're going to continue to develop on our system. And I think a lot of people forget, Trenton Norvell had a great year, but really that was his first season of college football. Even though he transferred from Cincinnati, he was redshirted there. Trenton had a great spring and is so much further along in understanding our offensive system than he was a year ago. Probably the biggest area that we continue to work to improve upon is our offensive line. We do return our top four interior players. One change that we made in the off-season is Brandon Dela Cruz has been moved from guard to center, and right now would lead our crew from the inside out. In the center position. Ryan Ricketts, who played center last year, has been moved out to guard, even though he'll still kind of back up that position. And then the two other guards that played a significant amount last year, Sean Sullivan and Sam Kachanik, both also return. The tackle position, we lost, that was the only place on offense that we lost starters. We lost Jimmy Holschlag, obviously a great player, great student, a guy that played a lot of football, and Jeff Lindsay, who was the other starter. So that will be, some competition. We've got a couple of guys that have looked good so far in preseason. Matt Zobrist, who was a guy that was in our program a year ago, played a little bit. We moved him out to tackle. We picked up two junior college transfers there, both really big guys from Arizona, Nick Ziegenbein and Tyler Bodie. Tyler was actually here in the spring. Nick did not get here until the summer. They're still, learning the system, and depending on the kind of system offensively that they ran in junior college, sometimes those junior college guys have some room to grow, and they both do. Not grow upward if you want to look at the roster on both of those guys, but I think one of them 6'9", 340, the other one's listed at 6'8" or 6'7" and 320. So it gives us the kind of size that you got to have in the Missouri Valley Conference. We were a very undersized offensive line last year. We also have a big class of freshmen that we redshirted last year. We kept that entire freshman class redshirted together, and so we've got 5 linemen in that group that we feel all have great futures in our program, and I won't mention all those guys. You can kind of follow them, but it's the class with James Torgerson and Jordan Detweiler and Jacob Judd, Josh Baldus, and Mitch Wallen, and those are all guys that I think you'll see at some point in time on the field this year. It gives us much more depth at that position than we had a year ago. The other part of our team that we've really worked on here in the off season, we continue to work on, is kicking game. Kicking game cost us last year. We've got to be a better team in the kicking game. Nate Knuffman returns. Much more confident football player than he was a year ago, kicking for the first time, and obviously got thrown into the fire a year ago, having to do both. He's still working at doing both. He's a very capable guy, but we have picked up some help for him. We recruited a punter, Luke Otto, out of the Bloomington Normal area, and also have Ryan Mulhern, kicker that we redshirted a year ago, making all of that very competitive as we move forward throughout the rest of camp. We need to be a competitive football team. We've got probably the toughest schedule in FCS football, and I make no bones about it. That's what you got to do to make a championship run. You got to play a tough schedule. After our opener here at Valparaiso, we traveled to Wisconsin to play up at Camp Randall, which is a tremendous college football environment. For any of you media guys that have ever been to a game at Camp Randall, what I talk about. There'll be a bunch of screaming people in red that, fortunately, the 11 o'clock game time hopefully will tone down just a little bit. Either that or they won't have been recovered from Friday night. And then 2 weeks later, we're up against another Big Ten opponent at Northwestern. And then we turn around and open what I think is going to be a highly competitive Missouri Valley Conference schedule. I don't think there's a team in the league that doesn't have a chance to finish in the upper division of the league. I think the league's going to be that balanced this year. Certainly the 3-time defending national champion, North Dakota State Bison, deserve to have the recognition, going into the preseason until somebody can beat them. They're the team to beat. And we get a chance to play them early on in the schedule at homecoming here in in Macomb. So our goals, quite frankly, as a football team, we want to build on the fact that we were competitive last year, but we didn't win games. And the next step is going from being a competitive football team to winning football games and competing for a Missouri Valley football championship title. One thing about young teams have the capability of getting better in a hurry. And so we believe the time is now to take that next step as a football team and a football program, and that's going to be our approach every day in practice. With that, I'll open it up for questions before you get a chance to talk to some of the players.
You say that you have the capability of getting better. Does it help that these guys, even though they're young, have that experience that you really can make that step quickly?
Yeah, I think that's what the comment that I made, John, early on about, hey, we're still very youthful. We've got a lot of guys who have played a lot of football now. And I'll use Trent as an example. He's sitting right there. Trent's got 3 years of eligibility left, but he played in 12 highly competitive football games last year at the college level, played a lot of snaps. And we've got a number of guys that, even though they're young in terms of years, got that experience last year, which, young players capable of getting better. We've got to keep getting better. We can't just be satisfied with where we're at. But that additional experience is extremely beneficial. That, and we've done a good job from a staff standpoint, I think, in terms of our recruiting and getting addressing needs that we have and creating more depth, because that was probably the biggest issue. When taking over the program a year and a half ago, we just didn't have the quality depth that you got to have to win games consistently in this league.
What are your expectations for Nico Watson and Larry Harris on the offensive line?
Well, they're both guys that'll play significant roles offensively for us. We like to talk about the running game that we have as we've got two very talented backs that are very different types of runners. And in the systems, in the offensive systems that I've had the opportunity to coach over the years, it's always been important that we have two backs, at least two backs. And a lot of the teams that I've had multiple 1,000-yard rushers. And quite frankly, if it hadn't been for Nico's illness and the fact that he really missed 3 games and was not healthy in a couple of others, his numbers probably would have been a lot closer to JC's, last year. And obviously JC came in, did a great job in our program, taking over, carrying the load of that running game, but having two quality people like that. Larry's really found a niche in our offense, I think, right now. We were a little different system than what the old staff had, and we've found him a niche in our system where I think you're going to see him a lot more on the field this year as playing kind of a flex tight end, and he fits that role really well.
Bob, I know it's only been a couple days of practice, but what's the most encouraging sign you've seen?
I like our attitude a lot. Just our focus. Probably the best way that I can say it is, a year ago we still had some guys going different directions. And honestly, I can tell you right now, I think we got 95 guys that are on the same page. And so that's what I've seen. The other thing is you just notice the depth and athleticism. As a head coach, you look around, you say, hey, we didn't have our 2s and 3s that could play at that level last year like we do this year. And some of that is that big redshirt group. If you remember, we redshirted 28 players last year. Those guys worked extra in the weight room. When you're redshirted, their schedule's a little bit different. They're a different looking bunch this year than they were last year. And we've got a good freshman class that we've added to that. And honestly, we didn't graduate a ton of players. We graduated a handful of good players, but we've got a lot of core of our experience back that's invested very heavily here over the past year.
Yeah, on the flip side, what's got you scratching your head so far?
We still got areas we got to get better. We got to get the kicking game thing sorted out. That's probably the biggest thing, and we're going to do some things different, with some of our kicking game schemes. That's one area that you don't work quite as much in the spring, even though we did. But that'll be a heavy emphasis for us in fall camp. Other than that, it's just really now trying to solidify. What you're doing is solidifying your 2 to 3 deep right now during preseason. Making sure that and we'll start within a week here. We'll start game planning already. That's how much further along we are than we were. Where last year we didn't start game planning until a week before the first game.
I know he came in as a walk-on, but what kind of future do you see Adam Hoover having in this program?
He's a great young man, tremendous student. I think after the first year I don't think he's got anything less. He may have gotten an A-. I'd have to go back and check. But just a guy that really works hard. He's working his way up the ladder in that receiver position, and I think he'll be a guy that you're going to see on the field some this year. Whether it's offensively, playing in special teams. He's got a great mentality for special teams, but certainly a guy we're very, very pleased with.
How important is it to have the non-conference schedule within the footprint of the university and the areas you want to recruit and build from?
Well, we, playing Wisconsin helps us. It's a target area for recruitment for us. We've got some guys on our football team right now that, one of the reasons they might be with us is because playing in Camp Randall Stadium was something that they wanted the opportunity to do, and certainly playing Northwestern and playing the Chicago area is great for recruiting and our alumni, and if you look at our long range scheduling that we have. Playing, over the next 4 years. We're playing Illinois. We're back to Northwestern. We're playing up at Northern Illinois. We've tried to keep those games regional just because I think it's where we want to be. We've got some really good non-conference games coming up over the next couple of years, and so from a recruiting standpoint, We've got guys on our team that want to play at the highest possible college level, and our schedule gives them the opportunity to play at the highest possible college level. I mean, we're going to play more. I don't know if there's anybody that's playing more Big Ten teams this year than we are, unless they're in the Big Ten.
Bob, you mentioned Brett Taylor's name, and what kind of strides has he made coming off his redshirt year?
He's learned the system. I think he's very physical. He's an exceptionally hard worker. He's become a better player physically. But the biggest improvement is his understanding of our defensive system. The position that he plays, a Mike linebacker, is a position that's got a lot to it. And having that redshirt year and the year to learn, has made him a more confident football player as well.
How much more confident as a staff do you feel you can go a little bit deeper on that playbook offensively from the get-go instead of maybe waiting a few games and you can maybe start expanding what you guys try and do offensively?
Yeah, we're already way ahead of where we were last year, and as I mentioned, in terms of our offensive and defensive install, and that's having the benefit of having a full cycle of two full springs and a season under our belt, and so we'll be an offensive football team that won't look a lot different in terms of some of the things we're going to do, but we're going to be a lot better at doing them, and that's what really the focus is right now. It's not about learning anymore. It's about consistency and execution, and that's what hurt us last year. Offensively, we were not good enough in third down conversions, and we put ourselves in a lot of off-schedule situations, and that's a consistency issue, consistency of execution issue.
What are you hoping to get out of Nico Watson this year? Great team play. I mean, he a guy that can give us a tremendous amount running the football, helping us execute our offense. And the other thing, and we talk about this a lot in our program, and we've got some good guys in those positions is leadership. You know, leadership and direction. You know, Nico's played a lot of games in this league over his career, and probably one of the more experienced players in Missouri Valley Conference play that we have.
Bob, how much did you have to give Nate Knuthman a little boost in the offseason to get his confidence up and get him where you need him to be?
You know, kickers are always different mentalities. You know, I try not to coach them very much because to me they only have one job, and that's kick the ball through the uprights, you know. But, you know, what he's, you know, if you don't remember that whole story, obviously we got surprised a little bit with the Pat Smith transfer. And so I think, you know, Nate honestly thought he'd have another year to develop. And when that happens, all of a sudden, boom, you know, now it's here he is, you know, everything's on him. He, you know, had to do both, punt and kick. We didn't do a great job at times protecting him. You know, some of our scheme play wasn't good, and so he takes the, you know, he misses a kick or gets a, you know, forced bad punt, and it always looks bad for the kicker, and sometimes it's not always his fault. But his approach is he's a pretty even-keeled guy. Doesn't get, you know, real emotional. You know, we've tried to, you know, to get the, hey, you know, just because you miss a kick, you know, get the next one approach, and felt good about what he did in the spring. You saw in the spring game he made a long field goal to be the differential scorer, and that's the kind of consistency we've seen so far in camp.
He told me he was confident coming off that.
Yeah.
You noticed that already this fall?
Yeah, he's kicked the ball well, and he's punting the ball better too, honestly, and so he's a guy that we've got to rely on, and you know, he's got to accept that responsibility, and I'm sure he will.
Is the plan to go one punter, one kicker, or
We'll see how it shakes out. You know, we've got some depth, you know, this year to be able to choose from, but like I said, that'll be a competitive spot here throughout camp.
Bob, how close is this program from competing for a Missouri Valley Conference title?
Well, you know, ask our guys that question. I can tell you what I believe. You know, we're going into the season believing that we can be competitive right now, and obviously that means we've got to get better every week. You got to have a lot of things happen the right way. We've got to stay healthy. You know, every team in the country is saying that right now, and of course, every team in the country is probably saying that they can win a conference championship right now too. It's just that some put it together and some don't.
Coach, you guys are doing the 12-game schedule again. How much do you enjoy getting that extra game in, where some teams are starting to maybe cut back and go to 11 instead of playing 12?
Yeah, you know, there are several of the teams in our league that are only playing 11 this year, and this is the last window year that allows you to play 12, and then everybody will be back to 11. It's how the calendar works. That some years there's an extra weekend in there. You know, having 12 games. I mean, guys. You know, if you've played the game, you understand how much you invest for the few opportunities that you get to actually play the game of football. And so if you got a chance to play 12 games, my feeling is you play 12 games. You know, and some schools have opted not to do that. It gives you one more chance to win a game. One more chance to win a game that may be the difference in you getting into the national playoffs or not. When you're playing 11 games and you're playing the kind of schedule that you play in our league. So, you know, I like it. You know, certainly we've got a very tough and difficult schedule, you know, by taking on those two Big Ten teams. But as you guys all understand, you know, part of that is about generating revenue for your program too, and those games do that.
Coach, you said that Trenton was a lot further along than he was a year ago. Exactly how much further do you see him right now?
You know, you can ask him that question. I just think his confidence level in terms of his ability to recognize the things that we ask him to recognize in coverage, his ability to get the ball out, you know, on time. You know, it's his understanding of the offense, and ability to check plays, and you know, all of that, which was all brand new. I remember he wasn't here last spring. You know, he came in the summer, and so the first time we worked with him was in fall camp a year ago. And just the volume of repetitions that he's seen since that time is made him a better football player.
Coach, do you have a lot of pressure on your defense, knowing that you have a lot of seniors heading into this year, going in the future after that?
You win championships. You win championships with great defense. I think we've got a chance to be a great defense, and we have a lot of seniors. Some of those seniors are guys that we've actually brought in that are transfers. Some are guys that have played a lot in this league, and I like the blend of that group right now. And I really do think if we can stay healthy in that group, we'll be as good a defensive football team as there is in the Missouri Valley. We were the second-ranked defense in the Missouri Valley Conference last year. I think we got a chance to be better this year.
Any more questions for Coach?
Coach, what exactly are your expectations for your current receivers?
We got to make more big plays, and you know, and we offensively, that was one of our goals. You know, and when I say big plays, more explosive plays is really probably the better word. You know, we were good throwing the football, but I should say we were good. We were okay throwing the football last year, but the one thing that we weren't very good at is generating a lot of explosive plays, and so making explosive plays on the perimeter and helping balance our run game, and you know, it's hard to drive the ball down in this league. Probably the biggest difference, and people ask me this all the time, what's the biggest difference between this level of football and what you were playing in Duluth, and you know, and the biggest difference is it is hard in this league to put together a 12-play scoring touchdown drive unless you pick up a chunk of yards. Defenses are that good, and so you've got to have some explosive potential in your offense, and I think, you know, obviously JC's a guy that can take the ball the distance, and that I think we've got more guys in our receiver core because of the experience, plus some guys that we've added to the group that are going to give us more capability to do that this year.
Coach, out of camp right now in the first few practices, who do you think is going to have the biggest breakout season for Western, just from what you've seen so far?
You know, I don't know if I can answer that. I think we're going to have a lot of guys that have good years. You know, I think I've been pleased with with our development at every position group. You know, the group that, as I said, I think the one group that we really need to come together and needs to really move forward is our offensive line group. You know, that's the group, and not to put pressure on Coach Blazek and his guys, but you know, that's an area where honestly we had some struggles last year, and we're going to play some exceptionally good defensive fronts, and that's the group that we need to really step forward to kind of match where we can be, I think, with all of our other, and I've got confidence in our young guys that are going to be able to do that.
Truly, how much do you appreciate the media, Bob? Can you tell us all right now?
You know, I've found over my career that it's great to work with media guys that understand what college athletics is all about, you know, and the amount of investment that our guys do, and certainly we appreciate the support and your coverage of our program. It's great for us. You know, the media extension is a big part of recruiting now, and so again, I just want to thank you all for being here. It's you know, we've got our program. I can promise you we've got our program going in the right direction, and we got a group of guys that are going to be fun to watch. They're going to be exciting to cover. And I think the other thing is we've got a group of guys that are going to represent the university and this community and this region in a highly professional fashion.